Wow. You know, I think this is one of those Sundays, maybe we should just keep singing. I don't know. I think there's a good reason why God commanded us to sing, and worshiping God in song, man, what a blessing. Having said that, I do have some things I want to share with you this morning, so I am going to do a little bit of talking as well. Next Sunday, a week from today, is Mission Sunday. And that's a big deal around here. Mission Sunday is a big deal to us because missions are a big deal to us. And next Sunday is going to be a great opportunity for all of us together to share in our mission efforts. Next Sunday, on Mission Sunday, the entire contribution, not above and beyond, not every bit over X amount, the entire contribution is going to be used to help support, encourage our missions around the globe. I don't know how many of us will be traveling around the globe in the coming week, but all of us are going to have an opportunity next week to send the good news of Jesus around the globe through our contributions. For the past 6 weeks, we have been showing different videos here on Sunday mornings, highlighting different missions that Bay Area supports. You saw a couple of those this morning as well. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to step out of our sermon series and focus on missions and focus on the opportunities that we have to participate in those missions. I'm going to talk about it today. Next Sunday, Okira is going to talk about it as well. And I'm going to go ahead and cut straight to the chase this morning. I am going to very unapologetically let you know one of the things that our missionaries around the globe need most of all is money. They need money. You know, it's kind of a funny thing. As Americans, we talk about money all the time. We think about money all the time. And even though as Americans we talk and think about money all the time, we don't like to talk about it in church. A $100 bill, a $20 bill, and a $1 bill meet up at the end of their lives at the shredder. A $100 bill said, I have lived a great life. I have traveled the world. I have been to cruises in the Caribbean. I've been to safaris in Africa. I have been to vacations in Europe. The $20 bill said, well, I've lived a pretty good life myself. I haven't been all over the world, but I've been to Disney World, and I've been to Atlantic City, and I've been to Starbucks. The $1 bill didn't want to be outdone, so he said, well, I've been all over America. I've gone from church to church to church to church. The $100 bill said, what's a church? Listen, if talking about money in church makes you nervous, I get it, okay? I understand that. But this is what I want you to hear. I want you to hear me out on this. I have lived long enough, and I've seen enough things and enough people, enough families. I'm going to tell you something. I have never seen an individual, I've never seen a couple, I've never seen a family who has bought into what Jesus taught about our income, our wealth, our generosity. I have never seen anyone who has bought into that and regrets it. In fact, I dare you to try to find me a person or a family who really has bought into Jesus' teaching, a true follower of Jesus. They're going to be generous. And they will tell you, I'm never going back. I wouldn't live any other way. And if you have never experienced that because of doubt or debt or fear or stories I've heard about church, can't give church money, you know what they do with the money. I'm telling you, you will never find someone who has used their money for kingdom purposes and has ever regretted it. So, we don't have to be nervous about it. We don't have to be weird about it. It's just another opportunity for us to follow Jesus. And it all begins with, I think, one very simple idea. One kind of maybe oversimplified truth. And this morning, I want to share with you just that one simple idea. For some of you, it's just going to be review. Others of you, it might be, I've never really heard that before. But it all goes back to acknowledging and applying this one simple truth. If you're with us on Wednesday nights in the auditorium, we have been going through the life of David. No surprise to those of you who know me, I love the story of David. David introduces this truth when he's king. Later on, King Jesus in the New Testament is going to reiterate this truth as well. But David alludes to this truth in a prayer that he prays. And I want to take a look at a part of David's prayer and kind of zero in on the game-changing, life-changing, kingdom-enhancing truth that David realized. Here's a statement from David all those years ago. It's 1 Chronicles chapter 29. Kind of says it all. Here's what he says to God. Everything in heaven and earth is yours. David tells God, everything in heaven is yours. Everything on earth is yours. God, you own it all. We are just managers. We are just stewards of what we have. So, let me share with you a little bit of the context of this point in this prayer. When David prays this prayer, he's probably in his mid-50s. He's been the king of Israel for several years now, quite a while. He has taken care of all the border disputes around the region. The land is at peace. And David comes to the conclusion, it's not fair that I'm living in a palace and God is living in a tent. If you remember, the tabernacle was a tent that goes back to the time of Moses, where God resided. And David comes to the conclusion, we need to build God a temple. I need to build God a temple. And it needs to be magnificent. But before he can build that temple, he gets a visit from the prophet Nathan. And Nathan says first, hey, God didn't ask for this, okay? But God says that you go ahead and build this. However, David, you can't build it because you are a warrior king. You got too much blood on your hands. God's not going to allow you to build the temple. Your son can build the temple. So David does an amazing thing. First, he accepts God's answer of no, which is kind of amazing. But then David gets all of the raw materials for building the temple. He gets all the gold, all the silver, all the copper, the hewn stone, the cedars of Lebanon. He gets all of this, and to start with, it's coming out of his own pocket. But then he goes to the movers and shakers around Jerusalem and the region. He goes to the influencers, the military leaders, the councilwomen, the people who have significance and have some wealth. And he tells them, we want to build God a temple. And it's got to be great. And the leaders, the influencers say, we want to help. We want to help with that. And the text says that they gave generously. And then an even more amazing thing happens. The common people, the working class, the people who don't really have any extra, they see what everyone's doing and they say, hey, we want in on this too. We want to be able to take advantage of this same opportunity. We want to do something that's bigger than ourselves. So there's this tremendous outpouring of generosity from everyone. And David is so overwhelmed with the generosity of the people that he gets the whole nation together. And as they're ready to kick off this project, David has a prayer in front of the whole people. And then again, I want to just kind of focus in on that prayer because I think it is the clearest, simplest, and maybe one of the best ways for us to kind of format this idea of our possessions, our wealth, our stuff, especially as it relates to furthering the kingdom. Let me back up just a little bit to David's prayer. He says this, yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor. And then he says the reason is for everything in heaven and earth is yours. It all belongs to God. So anytime you see glory and majesty and splendor and greatness in a person or in a nation, it is a manifestation of the greatness and the splendor and the glory of God. And then he says this. This is coming from a king, remember. So unusual for a king to say something like this. Yours, O Lord, is the kingdom. David said, hey, it is not my kingdom. It's your kingdom. I'm the king, but you're the true king. I'm smart enough to know that everything I have belongs to you. You are exalted as head over all. Yeah, I might wear the crown, but there is no confusion here as to who the head of the kingdom truly is. God, it's your kingdom. It is not my kingdom. And then listen to this. This should be kind of front and center as to how we live our lives. Wealth and honor come from you. You are ruler of all things. Again, David is not confused. He knows I have what I have because of God. And this is true of us as well. Now, any of us who have extra, whether it's position or influence, possession, wealth, ultimately it came from God. And no, I am not ignoring the fact that you worked hard to get it. I understand that. And I am not ignoring the fact that you took advantage of some opportunities to get what you have and to be successful, to leverage those opportunities. So yes, we have a role to play, but ultimately, hopefully, we are all smart enough that we're not going to be confused about where things came from either. Ultimately, we don't control the future, and we didn't really control the past. We don't control all the variables. We just took advantage of some opportunities. And David saw what a lot of people in his culture did not see. And David realized what a lot of people in our culture don't realize. There are way too many variables for us to ever be arrogant about what we have or what we've done. There are too many things that are completely out of our control for us to ever take credit, even with our hard work, of where we are and what we've accomplished. Ultimately, we're smart enough to realize we didn't have any control over our health. And we didn't have any control over where we were born, or when we were born, or who we were born to. We didn't have any control over the drive that was kind of in our being to maybe work our way out of some situations. There's just too many variables that we don't have any control over. So there's really no room for arrogance. In reality, arrogance is kind of an indication of ignorance. Arrogance says, I am too ignorant to understand that I'm not in control. Too many variables. I am who I am because of God. Because God is over all things. So David is declaring to the whole nation, I'm not confused. I know why I'm king. I know how I became king. I know why I have the resources available to me to build this temple. And then he says this, in your hands are strength and power to exalt and to give strength to all. Again, he is acknowledging publicly, I am king only because you chose to make me king. The only reason I am in this position is because, God, you chose to put me in this position. And I've got to believe that David is at least remembering exactly how he became king. And if you grew up going to church, you know that story. And if you've listened in on our Wednesday night class, you absolutely know that story as well. God told the prophet Samuel, I am done with King Saul, the first king of Israel. I'm done with King Saul. I'm making a change. Samuel, go to the home of Jesse. One of his boys is going to be the next king of Israel. So Samuel goes to the home of Jesse. And he says, hey, there's going to be a dynasty change. And one of your sons is going to be the next king of Israel. Now, gather all your sons together here. So Jesse gathers his sons together. And Samuel looks at his sons. He starts with the oldest, a guy named Eliab. And Samuel thinks, wow, this is going to be easy. This isn't going to take any time at all, because this guy has to be the next king. He looks like a king. God says, no, it's not him. So he goes to the next son. God says, no, it's not him. He goes to the next son. What do you think about? Nope. How about? Nope. Could it be? Nope. He goes down 7 sons. God rejects them all. And so Samuel asked Jesse a very awkward question. Hey, Jesse, do you have any more sons? Because God said one of your sons is going to be the next king, and it's not these guys. And Jesse, of course, says, well, we do have one more. There is one more son, but he's just a kid. His name's David. He's out watching the sheep, but trust me, he's not king material. Samuel says, send for him, because I'm not leaving until he comes. And when David walks in, God says, that's the one. Anoint him. He's the next king of Israel. Years later, David knew all this. He understood that. He's smart enough to always remember and to be aware and keep front and center of his life. There's just too many variables for me to take credit for where I am and what I have. It wasn't me. It was God. David understood early on everything in heaven and earth, including opportunity, including wealth, including riches, honor, comes from God. And for David, that realization, that understanding led to a couple things. It led to gratitude, and it led to humility. And here's how you know that's true. Whenever you see a successful person, and that person is grateful and humble, when you see a successful person, and that person is very quick to give credit to the people around him or her, or maybe quick to give credit to God, that's impressive. That's memorable. That's moving. That's inspiring. And then David goes on to share with us another realization. And David would tell us, if you come to this same conclusion, you're going to be glad you did. And if you never in your life, if you live your whole life and you don't come to this same conclusion, you're going to wish you had. Here's what he says. It's kind of amazing. But who am I? Who am I? You're David. You are the king. You have all these opportunities. You have all this wealth. You have so much. But who am I? Why me? And then he extends it to the nation. But who am I and who are my people that we should be able to give as generously as this? David asks the question that every single successful, wealthy person eventually asks. Why me? Why me and not them? Why me and not them? Because today we live in a world where we know instantly, we got so much information at our fingertips, we know instantly, global economics. We know what's going on around the world. We've seen the footage. We've read the reports. Some of you have seen it firsthand. People with nothing. People who are living in severe poverty. People who are truly living hand to mouth. And at some point, we all stop and ask ourselves the same question. Why me? Why me and not them? Why do I have what I have? David says, who am I? Who are we? Why us? David is telling the people, the Israelites, what you're doing, giving generously, supporting this effort, what you're doing, not everyone could do. Not everyone is able to do what we're doing, but we can, because God has honored us, and God has blessed us, and we're people who have been blessed, and we need to be a blessing. And if you arrive at that same conclusion that David arrived at, it puts us in a position before God with arms outstretched. Not just to thankfully receive, gratefully receive, but also to humbly give. To give. And then David goes on and tells us exactly why. Everything comes from you. Again, this is so amazing. Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand. Hey, God, all this abundance, all this extra, all this margin that we have, everything that's beyond our daily bread, all of this that we are giving, it's all from your hand. It all belongs to you. And again, David is saying we are not confused. We're not confused about this. We're not giving you anything. We're simply giving back to you what's already yours. You know, we use this verbiage all the time today. You know, when we come to the offering part of our service, you'll quite often hear somebody say, you know, we have an opportunity now to return to God a portion of that which He has given to us, which is exactly true. But I'm telling you, when that reality and that truth makes it from our head to our heart, and if it ever makes it from our heart to our wallet, it is a game changer. It's a game changer. It's a life changer. Now, I want to be sure that we're clear. We're not building a temple, okay? Next week, we're celebrating Mission Sunday. We're not collecting money for a capital improvement. We're not buying anything. We're not building anything. We're not starting anything. The money's collected next week. It's a much bigger purpose than that. Jesus told us to take the good news to the ends of the earth. Next Sunday, we have an opportunity to help make that happen. And to maximize our collective impact, we have to maximize our personal generosity. And in order to maximize our personal generosity, we can't think like owners who donate to church. If that's your mindset, I'm an owner. This is my stuff, and I'm going to donate some of it to church. I'm going to challenge you to change your way of thinking. You are not an owner who has some money, who has some wealth, and occasionally, or maybe even systematically, gives some of that to the church. We've got to embrace the mindset that was evident even in the Old Testament, but then again reiterated by Jesus in the New, that we are simply managers. We are simply stewards of everything that belongs to God. And for whatever reasons, He has allowed us to have extra. For whatever reason, we have more. And when you embrace that mindset, three things are going to happen. You start to think this way. And it becomes the framework of your life. Three things are going to happen. Here's the first. You're going to view everything you own, not just your cash, not some percentage. You're going to view everything you own as tools to further the agenda of your King. Your house, your car, your kitchen, your dining room table. You will start to view everything you own as tools to advance the agenda of the King. Everything. Here's the second thing. You will give first and adjust your lifestyle accordingly. You're going to give first and adjust your lifestyle accordingly. My father always said, give, save, live. In that order. Give, save, live. And by the way, this idea is not from my father. It is not from me. It's from Scripture. It's straight from God's Word. Our giving should be first and best, not left over and last. Most Americans, their giving is left over and last. Don't be most Americans. Leftover and last means I've financed my kingdom. I've got everything that I want, and if I have anything left over, then I'll donate that. This is not about what you can afford to give. You need to erase that way of thinking. What can I afford to give right now? That's not how a steward thinks. That's not how a manager of what God has given us thinks. This is not, it's not the way that we're supposed to think as well. They give first, adjust their lifestyle accordingly. Followers of Jesus, it's first and best. And then finally, when you embrace this mindset of being a manager and a steward, because everything belongs to God anyway, when you flip the script, what's going to happen is you're going to find it easier to surrender your entire life to your King. When you adopt this mindset, you're going to find a way to surrender all of your life to the King. Those of us who are Christians, and I know my audience, I know who I'm talking to. I think a lot of times when people are baptized, they go under the water and they're holding their wallet up as they go under. I've never seen that literally done, but I've seen that done figuratively before. Person's baptized, but they're holding their wallet up. Hey, God, you can have all of me, but you can't have this. And I know that we all equate our wealth and our possessions and our stuff to our identity, to our personal value. We've been programmed that way. As Americans, we've been programmed to kind of equate where we live and what we drive and what we do for a living and how much money we have in the bank, kind of to who we are, our identity, our value. But here's the challenge. When you decide to give first, when you first decide to give first, it's going to feel like you're giving up control of your money. And that's going to be uncomfortable because I don't know what's coming up next. I don't want to give up control of my money because I might need that money soon. And so when I start giving up control of my money, I feel like I'm giving up control of my life. But again, the amazing thing is, Jesus saw this coming. He knew exactly what we would struggle with. He talked about exactly what our problem was going to be. He knew we were going to get hung up on, what am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? He knew we're going to get hung up on, how am I going to get from here to there financially? So Jesus made a promise. And he made a promise, again, I know my audience, that almost all of you know. And almost all of you can quote it. We say it, we sing it, but I'm not sure we really believe it. The promise of seek first the kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. The context of that statement that Jesus makes, it's in the context of people worrying about how am I going to get from here to there financially? What am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. And all this stuff, it'll be added to you. You might have heard me say before, because the Bible says it so clearly, you can't serve God and money. You can't serve God and money. But the neat thing is, you can serve God with your money. You can take your possessions, you can take your money, lay it at the foot of the cross. See what God's able to do with that. So, I want us all to be praying, planning for the opportunity that we're going to have next week. I'm not asking for a number. I'm not asking for a promise. I'm not asking you to fill out a commitment card. I'm just asking you to consider prayerfully your stewardship. Seriously. you will never separate your stewardship from Jesus' lordship. You can't separate those two. So, next Sunday is going to be a day of worship. And it's going to be a day of opportunity. And it's going to be a day of blessing as well. I want you to plan for it. You can go to the app. You can go to our website. It's very simple to make a one-time or reoccurring donation there. Those of you who join us online every week, boy, we want you to be a part of this as well. We want to give you the opportunity to use your blessings to be a blessing as well. If you're not going to be here next week, just so happens Martha and I are going to be out of town. I've got a wedding planned that's been planned for a long time, and we're not going to be here next Sunday. Okira is going to be preaching, but we're going to join you next Sunday in this opportunity of giving, in this blessing of giving. And, of course, you can always go old school. You can bring a check. I think you can still bring cash. I don't know. But together, we're going to decide, did David really know what he was talking about? Does it all truly belong to God? And did Jesus really know what he was talking about when he said, you seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you? Can I trust him? Can I trust him with my life? Can I trust him with my money? Can I trust him to use what I have to further the kingdom? To help people that I will never see this side of heaven? To use people that we know, okay? This isn't going to some missionary fund somewhere. This is to aid and equip and empower people that we know. Missionaries, brothers and sisters spread out over the globe that we personally know. Places that we'll never go. Can I trust God to use that in a powerful way? So, be praying about that. Be planning for that. As I wrap up this morning, we've got a song that we're going to sing as a song of encouragement. As always, if there's something going on right now, today, in your life, you just need the prayers of people who love you, something you'd like to share.